Thanks, just point for writing about the 1917 White Sox?
Honestly, maybe this is something that you guys could help us with. We're always looking for content outside of the daily stuff. Jim and I, just because of the nature of the podcast, I really have to focus on what's happening today and booking guests, and same thing with Jim. But we've always invited writers and authors that if one of you had like a feature story about a historical team about the White Sox, our readers eat that up. Oh my gosh. So when I wrote about Ken Berry, like people were like, yeah, I remember going to see him at a doubleheader in 1964, and then it became conversations of what it was like to go to the ballpark as kids in the 50s. We have a huge audience for that. Unfortunately, as you guys know, it does take a lot of time to produce something like that. And yeah, if you guys have a feature story about a particular thing, I'd be more than happy to post it on Side Sox, because that's something that White Sox fans would love to read. So I guess to answer your question, no, I'm not personally doing anything about the 1917 team, but we should. And we even should be talking about, you know, the 1908, 1907, what happened as well, if truly the White Sox and Cubs are going to face each other.
Josh, I'm just going to interrupt here, because Josh is going to have to, like, probably at the break leave because he has another commitment to go to. I think we're doing okay, but party to go to. But after our break, we're going to have a couple of other speakers, and one of the speakers is somebody here, Bruce Allardyce. So I introduced you to him. He easily knows. He is up there as one of the people that knows a lot about the Black Sox scandal. SABR has a Black Sox committee.
Yep.
And Bruce has been incredibly prolific in our newsletter in the last couple of years in terms of uncovering all these, the bios of all these old gamblers and stuff, and just like getting at the core of their study. I mean, that's always, if your fans are ever interested in Black Sox stuff, I mean, not only Bruce, but other people, but there's a much better understanding, and even then, there's a lot that'll never be known. But like you sort of, it's stunning. The actual story, makes the fiction kind of pale in comparison.
Yeah, anything that has to do with the White Sox, we would love to cover it and write about it. I even wonder if for like Cubs fans, like with Bleed Coming Blue, I know Al tries in the past. And I know the type of work that you guys come up with, but with a lot of Cubs coverage, it's all about now. It's all about today, and I don't blame them because the team's really, really good, and this may be the best era of Cubs baseball, arguably ever. But yeah, I think even like from a White Sox perspective, sometimes you just get wrapped up in the now. I even feel like the 1993 White Sox team gets forgotten. They're going to have this reunion, and you're going to have all these fans, and kids are going to be like, who's Tim Raines? Who's Jack McDowell? Who's Lance Johnson? And like, yeah, the 93 team that won the American League West. Wait a second, the White Sox were the American League West? Like, oh gosh, okay, let's back up the train. Remember when everybody liked Robin Ventura? Yeah, so let's go back to that too. Nobody hated him, and he was well loved. I think it just in baseball media today, like I mentioned, if it's not for you guys covering this and writing about it and talking about it, my fear is it's going to be forgotten. Because I think with media moving so fast today and everybody trying to be the first one to report it, that we hardly ever take a step back and report the history and bring stuff back to the forefront and be like, hey, let's not forget about this. I mean, yeah, the whole Black Sox scandal, the gambling and everything, but as I just mentioned, Eddie Seacoat, he's got a record on the line that Chris Sale's hunting down. People probably don't have any knowledge of who Seacoat is until Kamka tweets something about him. And just having that ability to use a resource like you guys to learn more about a great White Sox player like that and try to bring that to the forefront, I think is really important.
Seacout was the bigger loss than Jackson, amazingly enough, to that team.
I was wondering if you talked to Ken Berry about his role as a consultant on the 8 Man Out movie.
Yes, I did. He said that was a very fun experience. And then he transitioned very quickly to what it was like to be Robin Ventura's manager in '89 for the Birmingham Barons, and how Robin Ventura has never changed as far as his mentality, his mannerisms. That's who Robin is. And after I had that conversation with him, because I was a hothead with Robin Ventura. I think there's a podcast episode, there is, that's #FireRobin, calling for his head and asking for him to be dismissed from the team. But after I had that conversation with Ken Berry, it clicked that, you know, Robin is never going to be a fiery guy, because he's never been. They won the championship. They won the Southern League Championship in '89 with Ken Berry as manager and Robin Ventura being the manager. And Berry shared the story that when they won, you know, he's congratulating the team. Robin Ventura picked him up and tossed him into the shower as part of the celebration. And then he tried to make a plea on why he should be the current White Sox bench coach to help Robin Ventura manage the team. So that's how that conversation went. He spoke very little about it, and you know, how much fun it was to be on that movie and to be a special consultant. But his heart's still in the game, and for an update, he's writing children's books. Ken Berry is down in Wichita, Kansas, and he is coaching his granddaughter's softball team. So 8, 9-year-olds probably have no clue who Grandpa Berry is and where he comes from, or that he even played professional baseball and he was quite good at it. But yeah, that's an update on Ken Berry.
At the end of your presentation, you talked about hoping that your site will be, you know, used by historians.
Yep.
I'm of the opinion that newspapers of today's world are dying with less content, less articles, and you know, now it's a charge, and you got to have 14 video ads before you even get to the damn article. If you're
Right. Take a survey.
Yeah.
Read it.
But for you and Jim, you know, what if something crazy happens to you? Who preserves the websites of yours and others like this that provide this, I'll say, daily content that, like you say, people are looking for in reading today? But yeah, say 25 years from now, you know, somebody says, hey, I want to go back and look at 2016. How do we maintain that those records are still going to be there?
That's a great question, and that's why for us it's a big benefit to be part of SB Nation. I think for a lot of fan blogs, bloggers, when I speak to them, the pound the head on the table moment is I spend half my time maintaining a website. We're lucky to be part of SB Nation. They do that for us, and as long as they keep the servers running, they'll be there. But that is a conversation Jim and I have had that he thinks about almost daily. For writing for a newspaper, there are archives. How do you archive a website after it's down? And that's a great point. That's something that we, for the web media, are going to have to figure out on how it's still available in 2040 or 2050. Well,
I'll simply give an academic answer and one that's given by the Library of Congress. There is no guarantee.
No guarantee.
And that is the simple, I'm Gregory Wolf, I edited a lot of books for SABR. That is in fact, from an academic standpoint, the biggest fear of digital publication. Whereas those who write, I'm one of the heads of the biography project, and where I require all the writers who submit something to work with newspapers and primary sources, we're not sure what will happen to these. And I don't mean just sports, but in my real life I'm a historian, and things that are published digitally, we don't know. There's no guarantee that they'll be there in 20 years from now. There's attempts by the Library of Congress to save themselves in their own digital archives, but how do you have access to that? So there's simply no guarantee. And as much as we would like to say that something like this is so incredibly important, there's no guarantee that in 50 years from now that we'll have access to it. You know, we look at newspapers from the 1860s and 1870s. In 150 years, we don't know if we'll have access to it.
And just to throw in there, there's all of what we consider primary sources, all the memos and letters and things, and I would do historical research on radio in the 1930s, and of course there's lots of things that aren't available, but there are archives of memos that are available. All that's digital now. Who's going to save that, right? If nothing else, they'll delete it because they're worried about a lawsuit.
There's absolutely no guarantee, and I think that it's a very dangerous thing when we look at how is knowledge codified and how it's going to collect and preserve for the future.
That's a great point. Yeah, 'cause like I said, on the we print it, and wherever that lives, I mean, that's a good point. I don't know, because if SB Nation gets bought by Yahoo, and Yahoo's like, now we need these servers, and deletes everything.
We can just use the example of the Sporting News
Oh yeah, what happened?
and Baseball Digest.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas the Sporting News now
Yep.
is part of the paper of record, and now the accessibility of the old editions of Baseball Digest is tied up in litigation.
Yeah.
And it could be tied up in litigation
Forever.
forever. And it's simply, you don't have access to it. And since it's not been digitized, we don't have access to a very important primary source. That's dangerous.
It is dangerous. That is a very good point.
At least we had print then too. You might have a magazine now. I'm told I've got boxes of clutter in the basement. Oh, they should all be thrown away. And I'm like, no, I gotta hang on to it. But you gotta worry with all the digital stuff down the road. How do you hang on?
Yeah.
Just by the way, Josh, how long have you been involved with Side Sox?
2008.
Oh, okay, so you were
Commentator,
involved,
and then-
you were there, because Jim Margalis used to.
Margalis, yeah.
Margalis, yeah, he used to publish a book called White Sox Cider. I've got self-published, I have some of those. That's like, for me, that's like, where is it? Well, that lives in print, even though it's like,
And we may have to revisit that. He
Yeah.
has pondered that. It takes, as you guys know, an
That's a
incredible
lot of work.
amount of work.
that's
And
gotta be a lot of work, yeah.
And I would have to pick up the slack in order for him to archive. But maybe that is another option as well, is that you do these annuals or you try to archive the stories that we see. From baseball perspectives, they have an annual. Baseball America has a great one as well, where they recap the previous year. But you guys raise a great point. I mean, I would love it in 10 to 15 years, but you're right, realistically, and just the way how media works today, if Yahoo buys Vox Media and they decide we're going to delete everything in the past or we're not going to have these certain fan blogs, then everything we've ever did was lost. With the podcast, though, I have those recordings, and at least on the audio side, I can say I have a way to archive that, where I can produce hard media, CDs, and then be able to store those. So some of the conversations that we've had in the past with White Sox personnel, at least would be able to survive. But yeah, the stuff that's written, we don't back it up.
How many guys do you have writing? How many people, I should say, people do you have writing for your?
So Jim's the top. Patrick Nolan, who's our, he's an auditor. He's great with numbers, obviously. He's our SABR metric guy, so he does a lot of analytics. He writes. Steve Peters does the breaking news, and Larry writes everything about as far as the minor leagues for us and prospects. So that's 4 right now, and it's a lot of work.
That's
and,
a lot.
And Jim is always looking for talent to help pick up the slack, because he'd love to have a life during the regular season. It can be quite tough sometimes. As a matter of fact, his girlfriend is graduating. She's getting her doctorate today, so he wasn't able to recap the game. So somebody else will be filling in for him. But currently it's 4. So, any other questions? Thank you guys so
Thank you.
much. This was great.